Trading day is about to start.
And you're already looking for that edge.
The opening trade brings you everything you need to know as markets open across Europe.
I'm Guy Johnson.
I'm Anna Edwards.
And I'm Tom McKenzie.
This is your opening trade.
Only on Bloomberg.
In case you missed it, on Bloomberg Surveillance.
We're journalists, we've got to ask, can this really continue at this rate?
What we see in our data is a consumer spending. If the consumer spend in America, that means the economy is okay, and that probably means the rest of the markets and the construct and the final demand is there.
What are the potential thresholds that could potentially stymie some of the pipeline?
People are borrowing because they see opportunity, whether it's equipment buying, whether it's hiring, whether it's building a plant, whether it's inventory buildup.
Don't miss Bloomberg Surveillance, live every weekday.
What up, y'all? It's the KRISTOPHER with Whitney Financial Strategies, baby. Financial
This is the
fitness.
Trade. I'm Sherian in Tokyo. The top stories this hour. A cautious open ahead for Asian markets in a week dominated by big tech earnings and central bank.
Sherian, where you at, girl? Don't you be leaving me like that? You hurt my feelings. Real, where you at? Oh. Okay, while that's figuring it out. What up, y'all? It's the KRISTOPHER. It's the KW Podcast. Yours truly, the one and only, the KW, the Kinetic Chris, the witness, the principal, the founder, the advisor of the advisor of the advisor, Texas licensed insurance producer, licensed underwriting training fellow, certified financial planner, and one hell of a trader. I'm back. The fog is lifted. The earth is shifted. The rays the gifted. Ugh. Okay, all right. Chill out. I'm violating my number one rule, which is humbleness. I had to take a minute to think for that for a second. That's probably because of something else. Anyway, being humble. Okay, let's get serious now. Because if you don't humble yourself, the market will humble you, and it won't be on your terms. Okay. Take it from me. I'm a bonehead. I had to learn the hard way over and over again. But good thing is, though, as I learned from my mistakes. Even though sometimes it takes a little bit longer than most people, but I have more work ethic and drive and consistency to make up for my shortcomings. So, if you got a problem with that. Anyway, I don't think anyone got a problem with that, unless, of course, you are certain kind of, anyways. Let's keep it in the scope here. Keep it in the scope, Chris. Try to keep it, it's hard enough, honestly, guys, it's hard enough to even go on this platform. I know I can get into the reasons, but if you knew the level, you look me in the eyes, if you knew the level of restraint it takes, you would be impressed, honestly, because it takes a lot. Believe me. So, as I was saying, welcome to the KW Podcast. I'm probably most unconventional advisor, trader, all the titles I listed. Yeah, I've been doing this for 20 years. I'm an OG, Gen X, old school, before the internet, after. I know analog, I know digital. I got the experience, I got the knowledge, and thank God I got the health. And all I need now is your attention. So let's get with it. First of all, What in Sam hell is going on with my Bloomberg? Sherry Arm's about to give us the update. They'll reiterate it, but still, it is 6:07 p.m. Central Standard Time in Beijing, China. It is 7:07 a.m. So it is this, folks. If you're new to this channel, first of all, do me a favor, like and subscribe. Get it out of the way. Might as well ask up front because you may be too inundated with the information you get from this channel, which has obviously been beneficial if you just look at my last video. I'll put a link at the end for that. But go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. We're never too busy for referrals. Yeah, that thing's in the way here. We are, look guys, do me a favor, like and subscribe now so you don't forget. And if you know anyone you think would find this information useful, we're never too busy for referrals. So please go ahead and hit that share button. That helps out a lot. And if you're new to this channel, congratulations, because you are about to get some valuable information. If you are a trader, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. If you're new to this program, I put it in layman's terms. I speak in the kind of dialect I speak in now, straight up dialect. But that's why I've been successful for 20 years, because people know they're going to get a straight answer from me because I'm a straight shooter, y'all. I'm not a BS. And so honesty is a very important thing in this world, in the world of liars, basically. And it's become like, it's worse than a pandemic, for real. So if you have integrity, you're definitely going to like this show. Okay. Now, I'm just going to warn you up front, though. I don't pull my punches and I speak my mind. Okay. If you're someone who's sensitive to people who are outspoken, then you might not want to watch this. No offense to you. Sure. It's that, who am I to judge, right? But I'm just saying, I might say some things that might upset some people, but if I do say something, I can back it up. I can guarantee you that. I'd never write a check my ass can't cash. Okay? Now, let's get on to our regularly scheduled program. The thing will start. What's going on here, yo? All right. I'm going to pause this for a second. I'll be back. We're having a little technical difficulties here.
That we've seen yet.
Okay, we're back.
The AI boom in the US. So Sherry, we'll get more details as they get to us, but
it's only been like 15 minutes.
Project that we're talking about.
Right, Heidi, let's now turn to India because the leader of
Híjole. Otra vez.
the pressure. Bloomberg's Avril Hong has been following this for us. And Avril, how consequential will this be for the Prime Minister, especially when he has big elections also coming up?
Yeah, those elections in Uttar Pradesh coming up as well, Sherry, as you highlight there. Now, this is following on from weeks of protests from these India youth protesters. They've since called off the nationwide demonstrations. And to your point about how this has significance for the Modi government, this is following on from the Education Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, stepping down. And it's really quite something because the Cockroach Janata Party, which began as an online satirical campaign, led these protests. They eventually spread to the financial capital, Mumbai. They've been demanding accountability after a series of exam scandals. Opposition lawmakers have thrown their support behind these students. Analysts, of course, have been citing how repeated exam paper leaks, irregularities in recruiting, this is all eroding confidence in the education system. So,
give me a break. Okay, first of all, Modi, the president of India, has overwhelming support. These are just a bunch of students who are mad because they got their 12-1B visas cut off by the immigration rules of Trump. And so Bloomberg now is trying to take a hit job on Trump. you got to sort out the bullshit. Even with the most premier financial news organization in the world, happens to be owned by Bloomberg himself, who spent, I think, over, was it $1 billion? I mean, it was millions easily. They spent a lot of money, like advertising against Trump. I'm like, bro, how could you like interject your politics into your program? Because the kind of people who subscribe to Bloomberg are professionals with standards of conduct. You know, they're going to see through this. Cockroach Janta Party? What? All right, let's hear it out.
But as these protests escalated and as opposition lawmakers threw their rebuild confidence in the system, and
these protests, plural, there's only one protest they've shown, at least from what I saw. Cockroach Janta Party. I mean, the name itself speaks for itself. They refer to themselves as cockroaches. Okay, so yeah, that doesn't send Modi a major setback for his election. Nah, that's because he's a Republican and they're a Democrat. Whatever. Okay, guys, first of all, that was a complete hit job on Modi. I mean, give me a break. The Democrats are just mad because part of the immigration policy puts restrictions on EV1 visas. So, if you don't know what an EV1 visa is, it allows students from other countries to come over here, and they can also, if you come over here and start a business, you can get a green card. Basically, you'll be allowed to stay. And apparently, and this is not conjecture, this is not hyperbole, this is based on fact, empirical evidence. Just Google it. They've been abusing the system. We all know this. I mean, just look at all the fraud. And I'm not saying it's a racist thing. I'm just saying that it just happens. Most of them are from India. They have their scam networks. There's even a channel on YouTube. One of my peers, I'm an advisor, but I just have my own channel. Whatever. I'm not even monetized. I should be, honestly. But they don't like how candid I am, how honest I am. Say the problem is that they're from the north, and in the north, like, you have to lie to people, basically, and to avoid hurting their feelings. You got to be empathetic. But that to me is like, it's not really empathy, y'all. That's fake empathy. Down here in the South, if you want to show empathy, you're up front with someone. You're up front and honest. That shows empathy. Because if you were in their shoes, you would want them to be honest to you, wouldn't you? Duh! Common sense, So anyways, one thing I can guarantee you, I may not be the smartest. I may say things that upset people, okay? But I'm an equal opportunity offender here, y'all. And you're going to get a straight answer from me. I'm a straight shooter. I'm going to tell you how it is. And, that's why my clients hire me. Because they want an objective third party to tell them how it is. And they know they're going to get that from me because I give no Fs. None. Nada. Unless you're my girl, then that's different. But you know what I'm saying. That's a phrase, for my older clients, boomers. You probably don't get that. That means like you just don't care. You're over it. You're not. You let it roll off your shoulders. Just let it roll off your back. Let's see what Homegirl has to say.
Not expected to deliver any surprises, so that weakness.
Híjole. Yeah, I know. I'm old. I got
At
legacy
the moment,
system.
seeing that sustained weakness. But Sherry, we also had that Wall Street Journal reporting about this potential massive financing deal between Nvidia and OpenAI. So just a constant reminder that tech is still going to be top of mind as we start off this week.
And it really makes it difficult for central bankers, right, trying to understand what all of these investments when it comes to the artificial intelligence boom will do to their economies. We're talking about more than $700 billion when it comes to investments in artificial intelligence from the likes of Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta as well. And what this means for economies, what this means for these individual companies. We do have, of course, big tech earnings to watch out for this week as well. We are now hearing, as you alluded to, Heidi, lots of deal making, a frenzy you might call. Nvidia expanding throughout the AI supply chain. Now, you mentioned this Wall Street Journal report that it's in talks to provide a roughly $250 billion backstop for OpenAI as part of a massive data center project. Now, the guarantees from Nvidia would help OpenAI lease a 10 gigawatt project that SoftBank is developing in southern Ohio, according to the Wall Street Journal. But we also have news that Nvidia will acquire a 4.5% stake in South Korea's neighbor under a $1 billion strategic investment deal. CEO Jensen Huang told us exclusively that Korean tech is experiencing a golden age and the country is well positioned to lead the world's AI infrastructure build out.
This is the golden ages for Korea, as you know. Their semiconductor business is booming. Their industrial business is booming. You know, this is a country that has the ability to help the world build out the AI infrastructure. That they're incredibly adept at adopting new technologies, and is a really technologically forward-leaning society. And they love using AI. AI has really diffused throughout their society and their industry. And so this is a great time for them. We're announcing several things. We announced a big partnership with SK Group, where our companies are going to enter into a business partnership where we do over $500 billion of business with each other, whether it's consumption of and purchasing of memories or selling AI supercomputers to them as they scale out 2 gigawatts of AI factories. There's a whole bunch of other announcements. We're investing $1 billion in Naver to help. They're the Korea's leading AI cloud. They're going to scale up in Korea up to they're going to scale up 200 megawatts, I think it is, and they're going to expand across the world. And so we have a whole bunch of announcements that we're making today.
With the expanded SK relationship, there's also sort of more direct involvement with NVIDIA on the roadmap for HBM, future generations of HBM. Talk about that. You know, I remember you being on stage earlier this year saying 5 years ago we told our supply chain what was going to happen, and it did happen. And you gave some credit to the memory makers in going with you on that journey. But clearly you want to be involved in the direction of travel for future generations of HBM.
Yeah, we're working together on, of course, we started with HBM2, worked on HBM3, 3E, 4, 4E, and then beyond. And so we've got a whole roadmap of memories that we're working on together. It is also the case that the semiconductor industry has really changed. And the reason for that, because we used to build computers for people to use, and we're going to still continue to build incredible computers. These are now processing AIs for humans to collaborate with. But in the future, we also have AI agents and robots, and they're going to be using computers. So instead of just 1 billion people using computers, we're going to have 100 billion agents and billions of robots all using computers. The computer industry, the chip that's built on top of the chip industry, surely is not big enough. And so this is one of the realizations of the semiconductor industry, that now computers are built not just for people to use, but computers are being built for computers to use. My guess is that the semiconductor industry is probably going to have to be 10 times larger than it is today over the next decade or so. And so working with our partners in Korea and around the world to scale up the supply chain of semiconductors so that we're prepared for this AI future is really important.
Wow.
NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, they're speaking exclusively to Bloomberg Tech anchor Ed Ludlow about the potential of South Korea when it comes to this artificial intelligence boom. And we've seen really the reaction when it comes to the markets and a lot of volatility, to say the least, on the Kospi as well. I mean, 4 to 5% moves have become the new norm. But check out what Samsung, SK Hynix, Naver are doing ahead of the market opens, because we've had big news, of course, from NVIDIA when it comes to Naver, when it comes to investing $1 billion in this company's AI data center. Also, NVIDIA and SK Group planning more than 2 gigawatts of Korean AI data centers as well, which means roughly enough electricity for 1.5 million homes. You can see the upside, especially in Naver, gaining more than 13% ahead of the open. I mean, the stock has stayed relatively flat through the entire year, and we're seeing this pop right now in futures. So we'll be watching this stock at the open. Also, Samsung won a more than $200 billion 5-year contract to manufacture Broadcom chips. We'll be watching these two stocks, Samsung and SK Hynix, because we're also going to get their earnings. Bloomberg's Adrian Wong now joins us for a preview of that. Bloomberg, Adrian, what can we expect when it comes to the earnings from Samsung and SK Hynix this week?
Well, analysts at HSBC, they're saying how the rising prices of the HBM and the rollout of the HBM4 chips should support both SK Hynix and Samsung in the second half of the year and relieve those concerns about a potential slowdown in earnings. And of course, we can't forget about the higher prices of DRAM and NAND, which are still benefiting both companies. For SK Hynix, which reports on Wednesday, both of those segments are expected to see its fastest revenue growth since at least 2010. And also for Samsung, analysts are also seeing an improved foundry utilization, which should also support profits. And as you can see, they are accelerating in the previous quarters. Let's flip the boards now and look at Kioxia in Japan, because it's still the same AI theme. They are still in the memory space as well, where earnings are forecast to more than double from the previous quarter. And if you recall, they were once Japan's most valuable company in June, but since that peak, it has lost half of its market share since. But despite all of that, analysts still remain very bullish on Kioxia. They're still expecting the stock to climb further when the supply and demand conditions do improve. And if you take a look at this, the average analyst price target is about 130% above the current share price.
It's also the start of the first quarter earnings season here in Japan when it comes to banks. I mean, we know that with the BOJ tightening, it's been a good year, but what sort of numbers can we expect?
Yeah, exactly. It's really interesting. As you mentioned, it's against this backdrop of a weaker yen, further bets of a BOJ rate hike, and also whether Japan's pension fund will increase investments in domestic assets. So we'll kick things off with Nomura on Wednesday, Japan's biggest brokerage. And they had already flagged that their wholesale revenue is well ahead on track. And it's actually about more than 30% more in the first quarter. And that's really driven by stronger equity markets as well as M&A activity. And we'll take a look at the mega banks. We have Mizuho and SMFG also reporting later in the week, where estimates are expected to top numbers there. And it's really interesting because Goldman Sachs, they recently raised their price targets for these mega banks, saying that it's really due to their capital markets activity as well as their growing loan demand. Sherry.
Bloomberg's Adrian Wong there, and in fact, as Adrian mentioned, we'll actually be looking at Japanese bank earnings with Goldman Sachs in a few minutes. They remain bullish on the sector as loan growth strengthens and rates move higher.
Sherry, Asian markets have to digest a very weak session when it comes to US semiconductors that came through on Friday. It was a slew of AI-related headlines from the weekend as well. So a resolution when it comes to the AI capex debate will be key to stemming last week's losses, even as oil gains are being paired at the moment with a bit of respite on the geopolitics front. But let's on the geopolitics front, but let's take a look at how we're setting up for this week. Our Bloomberg market reporter Anthony Stevens is with us now. So at least when it comes to the war front, there is some optimism, or at least everything's a bit quiet at the moment. So can we kind of refocus on the tech side of the trade?
Yeah, we had a very interesting Friday night session in the US. You did see oil start to come off into the back end of that session as well. Maybe some hint of this negotiation was out there. Oil dropped around 3%, but that did not stop the semiconductor space from selling off quite hard. And what was very interesting about that is, of course, that you had these great results from Intel, which was sold into extremely hard. So why was that? It's because the capex plans of the AI suppliers themselves are being questioned here, not just the hyperscaler capex. It's how much of this capex can the market take before structural demand turns back into cyclical demand. So this is the big debate happening within the AI chips, the ships and towels trade. That's the debate coming into Asia. Now we have this better demand picture
by the dip, don't trip, baby,
from the Nvidia and Korea kind of headlines, and that's extremely
Otra vez.
US plays. So the dispersion within the AI trade is becoming much more important than a step function of whether the AI trade is on or off.
We're going to talk about Claude Optus 5, right? Available on Friday. Price the same as the 4.8, materially higher performers, half the price of Fable 5.
Yeah, and you can see this as kind of a response to the success of the new Chinese LLMs, right? You're seeing a structural pressure on the pricing overall of LLMs. Now, whether that drives increased token usage and net these companies make money is the biggest debate in markets right now. Lower token prices but greater token demand is the base case for all this investment and capex that you're seeing, whether you're talking about Nvidia, whether you're talking about Intel, whether you're talking about Google or any of the companies that are going to be reporting this week. It's how do they see the evolution of the token demand market. At the moment, the first thing we are seeing is a reduction in pricing to meet the Chinese where they are. And that is a fascinating competition between the two ecosystems. That sets up really well for the CXMT IPO today. And let's see how that trades in China to set the tone for the rest of the region.
Bloomberg Markets reporter Anthony Stevens there in Hong Kong. More ahead here in the Asia trade. This is Bloomberg.
All right. Yes. All right. Okay. That was quite a segment there. It'll be coming back here soon. It is 6:49 Central Time. It is 7:46 a.m. Beijing, China. It is 12:40. Oops. It is 12:46 a.m. London time. And so we got about 14 minutes until the market opens. Good morning, y'all. It's Monday morning. And here at Whitney Financial, it's Monday morning. It's also Monday morning in China. And so we're on China time. Why are we on China time? Because that's when the markets start for the week. They start in China. They start at 4 p.m. They've been open for a couple hours already, almost. Yeah. Take a look at the open trades right now. As a matter of fact, if you're new here, earlier I kind of cut off what I was saying because the program came on. I didn't want us to miss it, and I couldn't get the program to start when I earlier, so I had to pause it. Long story short, I wanted to look at the trades, the open trades. So if you're new here, Forex is one of our areas of specialty. I'm a financial advisor by trade. I've been an advisor for about 20 years out of college. Excuse me. That was very unprofessional. I know. But we're on YouTube, y'all. Okay. Not to say anything bad about YouTube, but I think that this is a much more casual environment. If someone referred me a financial planning client, I would be wearing my business suit. I would, shake hands, provide a business card, provide a firm prospectus, brochure, do all the formalities and so on and so forth. But this is, this is a podcast. Almost forgot. I even got the microphone here, even though I'm talking through this thing right here. But I can turn it on, but just got a bad echo. But it's got the podcast aesthetic. Okay, so when you're here, you're in a different time altogether, y'all. That's called my chrono fusion strategy. I synthesize time, and I'll prove it. Right now, in Beijing, China, it's 7:49. Okay, right now it's 6:49 a.m. versus p.m. So this applies, throughout the week, and so we can get ahead of the trading day by seeing how the China market's open. And it's something I'm an expert at. And it's a trade strategy. It doesn't always work, but it definitely gives you a point of reference. It gives you a point of reference because let me zoom in here. It works more often than it doesn't, and it gives you a point of reference because when it comes to investing, trading, technicals are super important, but they're only one side of the coin. The other side of the coin is fundamentals. Fundamentals is the big picture. That's qualitative versus quantitative analysis. The qualitative analysis is keeping up with the leaders of different countries, Xi Jinping, Trump. And incidentally, I've become very involved in politics as a result of that after 20 years of seeing what's going on, really what's going on. A lot of y'all are just getting your news from social media. That's basically hearsay. In fact, I think there's even like a gajillion programs called hearsay just for social media. But hearsay is gossip. Gossip is against the teachings of the Bible. Isn't specifically in Proverbs. There's like 7 different entries. King Solomon gets really specific about it, and his logic and wisdom is like unparalleled. It's timeless. Who am I to say? I'm not trying to push my religion on anyone, but I can tell you this though. I went and checked those proverbs with all the other religions on my own time, and they all say the same thing in different ways. So if you're ever curious about this, so when I say a proverb, I'm talking for all Abrahamic religions. Even Islam. The proverbs in Islam are the same as in the Bible. Look it up. So if there's anything you can get from the Bible you can trust, is the Proverbs. It's timeless wisdom. But if you're a fool, you're gonna read it and drop it. You're not gonna listen to it because you can't see what you're not looking for. You don't have your mind in the right place. But if you humble yourself in the eyes of your God, whoever that may be, the Proverbs will come to you naturally, and you got to protect them. You got to protect that wisdom, because if a fool does figure it out, then they're going to use it foolishly, and that's dangerous. Those are sacred things, but the basics are the same, and that applies to everyone. So anyway, one of the proverbs which we apply here is the number one rule in trading, which is to be humble, because if you don't humble yourself, you're going to get a blind spot. I don't know how many times in history, there's been countless times where great leaders got a big head, and all of a sudden, yeah, you get the point. So they let their ego get out of hand, and then they got T-boned. They got flanked. They got blindsided, and so on and so forth. So here at Whitney Financial, Whitney Financial Academy podcast, in this realm that we're in right now, we're just going to avoid that situation altogether and humble ourselves here, okay? And so, and keep it within the scope of the program. Now, if you are new here, be sure to like and subscribe now so you don't forget later. And hit the alerts because I'm gonna warn you. I'll put on a bunch of my personal videos. I'm gonna segregate them at some point. Okay, but they're pretty good videos. I don't put up anything that doesn't provide something of value. Even if it's like observations in nature. I love birds. I love animals in general. Only because I inherited this like crazy like bird refuge. When I bought my house, I didn't know it was like a bird sanctuary for like 50 years. I bought an older home, and but the birds, yeah, they're actually really relaxing. I don't know if you're any of y'all like a bird watchers, but squirrels out there, just hanging out watching them. Yeah, they got personalities and stuff. They're cool. Anyways, I'm gonna get off subject here, but who would have thought though? I mean, all right, look, we're gonna miss the Open. I'm talking too much, but I just want y'all to know that I don't care what background you're from, as long as you're reasonable. I respect people for their differences, as long as they're not chanting "Death to America." We're good. Who am I to tell you anything? Last time I checked, only God knows why. So enough said. I just want you to know I appreciate y'all's viewership, and please, like and leave a comment so we can get my numbers up here. I think I've already pissed off the powers that be enough with my comments, so I can use all the help I can get. And I'm not even exaggerating. So enough said. Go. We got 5 minutes, y'all, to the Open. Okay. Well, one of the things that we like to do here is that you get to hang out with me while I conduct due diligence in real time. And so, for one thing, that provides me actual record for my own records. No one can say, "Hey, you didn't conduct your due diligence." I'd be like, "Have you gone on my YouTube channel?" you know. So that makes it super easy. I think all advisors should publicly post their due diligence, but they don't. But I do. But that's, earlier I was talking about upfrontness. Hold on, wait. I got a point here, y'all. Remember I was talking about upfrontness? That's what I'm talking about. So most advisors will not put their due diligence out like this because most advisors really don't know how to manage portfolio. I'm not downing my profession because they hire third-party money managers, and there's a lot of good ones out there. Okay, but I'm just saying, usually they outsource that. I actually went to college for this. I got all my licenses and stuff, and I've been doing it for 20 years. I've been trading since 1997 with dial-up when I was in college. So I mean, I may be boneheaded about some things, but I'm smart about this for sure. And so if a bonehead can figure it out, you're going to get some simplified stuff that no one can simplify. So that's a bonus, y'all. At least I'm aware of it. Some people are just oblivious. But by being aware, you ground yourself in reality. And that's why number one rule is to be humble. See how it works now? All right. Enough said. See, because I'm an old advisor, I got. It's funny to say that because just a couple of years ago I wasn't old, but after the pandemic, most advisors were baby boomer generation, and a lot of them retired. And so, like the Gen X, we're now the premier generation in my field and across the board, really, because it was a great retirement. A lot of boomers retired, so we got to hold down the fort, y'all. Just saying, gotta bring that financial strength. All right, 4 minutes left until open. Check it.
Front and centre with that Wednesday
Talk
decision.
to me, Sherry on.
We're not expecting sort of massive moves.
Híjole, otra vez.
Certainly hawkish commentary in light of the recent inflation flare-up with the re-escalation.
Look how green those futures are in Asia. All the markets are green ahead of the open. These are the futures. The futures front run the market. They're contracts that derive from the actual market price. And we're going to find that out here in about 4 minutes and 39 seconds. Or less, actually. Otra vez. Okay, anyway, let me give you a quick summary here. Part of the program is I summarize what we've been watching on Bloomberg, because Bloomberg's given us the intelligence, the update. Remember I was saying in trading and investing, there's two sides to the coin. There's the technical side and there's the fundamental side. The fundamental side is what we watch on Bloomberg. The technical side is what we look at on the charts. So we're going to get to that here in a second. Okay. Now, what we just looked at on Bloomberg is at first, apparently they ran their little hit job on Trump by attacking his comrade, not his comrade, well, maybe for some people, hit Modi. India's premier president Modi is tight with Trump. They're like dogs. They're like, yeah, even they held a rally with nothing but Indian nationals and Modi in India, and it sold out. People were out in the streets, so the crowd was so big you couldn't even get it, and the stadium was huge, and they all loved Trump. So those students that are on there, those are like 1% of the population. That's such a misrepresentation. Sorry, Bloomberg, I gotta call it out. It is. You cannot rely on them when it comes to political motivated stuff. You cannot rely on Bloomberg. But everything else is spot on. Like what they just talked about, NVIDIA. OpenAI, they got $250 billion deal. That's bullish as hell. Huang, CEO of NVIDIA, says this is the golden age for Korea. And now that people are talking about Korea being in a bubble, but now they just have more evidence to support the prices, which are already lofty. AI agents are using computers now being built for other computers to use. So they're not making them for humans now. Now they're making the computers so the AI robots can use them. So that's computer squared. Is that good? Come on, is that good? Okay. Yeah. You know what? That's all I gotta say. Samsung wins $200 billion deal with Broadcom. That's another bullish as hell sign. Waiver signed $1 billion strategic with NVIDIA. Okay, so NVIDIA is making these big deals. That's money coming in. That's consolidation. So I'm calling buy the dip on this. This is a buy the dip. So all our trades that we've been holding on to, AUD JPY, which is a proxy for CWEB, TQQQ, and that's all I'll list in the summary.
Strikes on Iran at a time when we're also trying to digest this frenzy of AI deal making, right? On a week when we get big tech earnings, not to mention central bank decisions as well.
Yeah, these central banks are in a tough place at the moment because, yes, we have had a little bit of respite when it comes to the geopolitical tensions, but still no real resolution when it comes to the events in the Middle East, what happens to the Strait of Hormuz, if we're going to see a re-escalation, which is going to then continue sending energy prices higher. And the question is feeding through to just how transitory are these inflationary pressures going to be?
Something that's very important for the Bank of Japan as it decides on this policy decision on Friday, right? The expectation right now is for no change after that 25 basis point increase in June. But we're following the Japanese yen very closely because it's been so weak at that 40-year low against the U.S. dollar. 1 point headed towards a 160 level, 164 level against the greenback, which could potentially apply some extra pressure for the Bank of Japan to move at a time when we've also seen CPI accelerating for the month of June. That was data last week. We're going to be following Tokyo CPI this week very closely as well. We're seeing the Japanese stock market right now with some gains. The Nikkei up 0.8%. The tech sector is something that we're watching very closely, of course, as we're going to get big tech earnings. We're going to be watching the AI supply chain here in Asia. But of course, most importantly, when it comes to South Korea, given that we have had those mega deals involving Samsung, SK Hynix with NVIDIA, we're also following Naver and NVIDIA's investment in that company as well. So take a look at how we're looking. Kospi up 1.5%, a little bit, I cannot call this strength, maybe like unchanged 14.58 against the Korean won, but it's surprising. We've seen a little bit of strength for the Korean won, which had really weakened to decade lows against the greenback, and a lot to do with potentially that speculation of more flows to come, especially when it comes to these AI investments. We know that Samsung has another deal with Broadcom. We're going to be watching earnings of Samsung and SK Hynix this week as well. But Heidi, of course, is really the central bank theme that we continue to watch as well.
It is, and we do have a slight move when it comes to Singapore, right? The Monetary Authority of Singapore raising the slope of the Singapore dollar band, keeping the width and the centre unchanged. So there have been some pressures when it comes to what we've seen with both subdued inflation, which would have allowed this MAS to maintain settings unchanged.
Otra vez. Otra. Actually, it might be shutting down because I have it automatically set to shut down. That's okay.
The slope of that policy band, and we are also seeing some further commentary on significant uncertainty around the macroeconomic outlook, and that the inflation could more discernibly ease in the second half of 2027. So looking like they're expecting core CPI to...
Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Although Singapore is right next to Japan, and they're like way more wealthy. They have like the longest lifespan, I think, in the world. Or they have one of the longest for sure. Anyways, okay, in the last video I was talking about the cup and handle pattern. You see here. It's a traditional pattern. And I put a great description on my channel. Go to my channel and look at the post. And I put it on there. But you get a market rally like we have here. Market rallied up. And then you get to a point where people are starting to take profits. And when people start taking profits, it causes it to slump. It's like a sinkhole. So it's like when people are taking profits, they're selling their positions, and it's like a bunch of water getting poured, and it pulls the dirt down with it. But nothing has changed fundamentally. So, fundamentally, the picture's the same. What we've been watching on Bloomberg, as we just saw, the U.S.-Iran peace, what do they call it? Extended war pause. U.S. and Iran extend a war pause. They're still pausing. Okay, I don't know why they say it that way. They're still pausing. Okay, so that means markets are going to be happy about that, because the alternative is U.S. keeps bombing Iran and more people die. No one wants that. We want the escalation, so we want peace, And so, I mean, this is a conflict that's been going on for 49 years. So it would be unreasonable to think that it's going to end in a short amount of time. It's gonna take a lot of time to work this all out. But at the end of the day, I think there's some good people in the Iranian government. I know the people are for Trump, mostly. But there's good people in that government too who don't want to continue being the sponsor of terrorism. They don't want to be the bad guy. They want to be part of the global community, and then all the people would be so happy and support them. Who wouldn't want that? It's just that it's a process, and it's going to work itself out. It's going to take a while, but I don't see how it could hurt things any more than it has already. The damage is already done. That's done. The market's already baked it into the cake, y'all. So as long as nothing happens, then up. Okay? Bottom line, up. By TQQQ. These are signals, by the way, so I don't want to get in trouble because otherwise I'm giving advice, and we're not supposed to give advice that way. But we can give signals. And so based on the cup and handle and our fundamental qualitative analysis here at Whitney Financial, on the KW podcast, I'm sharing with you, which is in a very, very layman's term way, great trade ideas that you're going to make money on. Yeah, I can't guarantee that. Okay, you could lose as much. And some of the recommendations I recommend are triple leverage, and so that means you got 3 times the risk. So if you got TQQQ is a derivative of the Nasdaq, so it's triple leverage. So if the Nasdaq goes up 1%, it may get 3%. Usually it's like 2.9 or 2.8. It's a little haircut in there, but the haircut's worth it because with the triple leverage fund, you don't have to worry about the risk of a margin call. So if it pulls it against you because, say, like the war suddenly broke out again, it pulls back, but all of a sudden it stops, and then the very next day they have a deal, and it goes right back to where it was like 3 days later. You would have, in a normal margin account, you would have been margined out, and you would have had half your account left, maybe less, maybe a third, depending on how bad the margin call was. And when you get a margin call, you're at the mercy of the broker, because at that point they got you by the cojones. They can execute that trade however they want. Take it from me, a seasoned professional. If you don't keep your eyes on those brokers, you got to let them know, so that, because then they won't mess with you. If you're a profitable trader, they want you to be there because of the volume. They get all the commissions on those trades. And if they're like, oh, it's a non-commission trade, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Those non-commission trade like Robinhood and Schwab, they get you on the execution of the trade. So like that, they still make their money. And so at the end of the day, the execution style, the non-commission, you end up losing even more. And this is based on a factual study. And look it up. You don't believe me, anyone. This is a factual study that was done by the president of the SEC, which I participated in personally as one of the commentators. And they specifically looked into this. I would be happy. Actually, no, I'll put the link in the description, because that's how we roll at Whitney Financial. We conduct this thing is called due diligence. See this on my hat right here, y'all? Check it out. On my hat here. You see my signature? My signature is on my logo. Why is my signature on my logo? Because if it has my signature on it, we did our due diligence. And so that is confidence, y'all. When you, in life, you do the things you should be doing to get yourself to where you need to be. And we apply that principle here at KW Podcast, at Whitney Financial Strategies, at Currency Capital. Our Currency Capital is our commodity trading advisor firm. And it's been on the sideline for a while, but I'm resurrecting it. And so this is why I'm using a demo account here. And but the demo account can also be used as a indicator. So when I'm giving you advice to take trades, I'm looking at the Australian dollar, Japanese yen, because it's a great proxy for the market. And so, we look at the FX currencies. These are all dollar crosses. So it's US dollar, Japanese yen. They just call it the yen to make it easy, but really it's all currencies are traded in pairs. Just like here, AUD/JPY. This is an actual algebraic equation here. So it's the Australian dollar divided by the Japanese yen equals the current price, which is at 1627. No, excuse me. 1453. See it getting bid up here? All these other price marks are just they're lining up with my indicators, my lines, my drawings. So I save your drawings, you refer back to them. But you could trade without even looking at a chart, just by watching the Bloomberg. You got to tolerate some negative press for your favorite president, but you just kind of drone that out, let it roll off your back, and you'll be just fine. Humble yourself. Remember, it's the number one rule. Be consistent, and the number two rule is always watch my videos, y'all. That's the number two rule. There's no conflict of interest in me saying that one bit. But for real though, I appreciate your viewership. This is the KW podcast. I'm the KRISTOPHER KW podcast. KW signing out. See you on the next one. I'll put the recommendations in the description on top of the disclosure. Thanks again.